Good morning and welcome to today's tutorial. On today's tutorial, we're going to be doing a mermaid skirt. My name is Mamus and this is Classical Tour. Kindly subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't, and also like this video and other videos we've been posting, and click on the notification bell for you to be notified when the videos drop. And God bless you as you do so. So for today's tutorial, we'll be doing measurement of waist 30 inches, hip 38 inches, and the length of the skirt will be 40 inches. So the first thing we do before we do start the tutorial, or before we do a mommy skirt, is to write out your measurement the way it is. Don't forget, this is the measurement we'll be using. And also, I did not indicate the hip length we are using. We're using a hip length of 8. That's from your waist down to your hip line, 8. And let's start the tutorial. Fold your fabric into two. As you can see, I'm using a paper for this draft, so I won't be folding, so that we can have enough for the tutorial. So first thing you do now is measure the length of your fabric. For the sake of this tutorial, our paper is not up to 40 inches, so I'll be using 38 inches, as you can see. And the next thing I'll be doing here is to put in my measurement point, that's the hip line, which is 8 inches. And don't forget, for this mermaid skirt, we're adding a 2 inches band to it. So what you just do is minus the 2 inches from the top, and as you can see, I'm minusing the 2 inches from the top, and then you impute your hip length of 8. So I'll be marking my hip length now, 8 inches, as you can see. And next thing I do is I mark it out. And you label hip length, so you can remember that's your hip length. Also, you have to measure your knee length, which I did not do initially from the beginning of this tutorial, but I will later add it to it as I am going. So what I'm doing right now is taking my waist circumference. My waist is 30 divided by 4 is 7.5. It's 7.5, and I'm adding 2 inches allowance. The reason why I'm taking it 2 inches allowance, because one, you might be lining this skirt, and also for your dart intake. And the other thing I'm doing here now is taking my round circumference for my hip. My hip is 38 divided by 4 is 9.5, and I'm adding 2 inches allowance to it as well. So I'm going straight to the bottom of the skirt now. How I get my mermaid at the skirt, bottom of my skirt, is my mermaid curve is I take my hip circumference 9.5, and I added 7 inches to it. You can add more than 7 inches to it. It depends on how flow you want it, but for the sake of this paper, I'm adding 7 inches to it. And now I'm about to curve. So the ruler was not curving it enough, so I decided to use my hand to curve. So I curved, and then I realized that I haven't taken my knee point. So that's what I'm going to be doing here now. So I took my nail of 20 inches, then I stepped up by 1, or you can step up by 1 or 2, but here I'm stepping up by 1 to make it 19 inches. I'm going to mark that 19 inches there, and I'll just mark, and I'll label that my knee length, which I would have done from the beginning of the video. So I mark, and to get my knee circumference, what I do is I take my waist circumference and just drop it there. You can also use your hip circumference and minus 1 from it, but to make this mermaid curve very well, I usually take my waist circumference, and from that knee length I connect down to where the length of the skirt is. That's where the skirt length is ending. And as you can see, my mermaid skirt has formed already. So what I'm just doing right here now is to mark out the curves very well, so I don't have that sharp point at that knee length. The next thing I'll be doing here is to take my dart. So what I usually do for my dart is I take my dart from the middle of my waist, that's the middle of my gown, from my waist down. I take it by 4 inches, and you can do more than 4 inches, it's your choice, but my own measurement, how I do mine, is I take 4 inches. Then to get the dart length, I usually use 4 inches as well, or I just take 2 inches upward from my hip measurement, that's from my hip line up, to get my dart. So whatever it is, however it is, if your hip length is 10 and you take your dart measurement 2 inches above your hip, then whatever it gives to you is your hip, is your dart line. What I'm doing at the bottom of the skirt right here is I step up by 1 to get that curve, as you can see over there. Now I'm marking the dart line as I earlier explained, 4 inches. And I'm marking 4 inch down as well, that's 2 inch above my hip line. And exactly. So what I'm going to be doing now after marking the dart line is I'm going to be taking half inch on both sides, as you can see, and that's the part we are cutting off by sewing our dart. So after drafting this properly, you make sure all your measurements are correct and everything you drafted are well aligned, and then you trim it nicely. So after trimming it nicely, what we just need to do is to cut out our back. For the back, what you just do is you take 2 inches outward. That's for our zip allowance, and then you just cut from this very line down. Exactly how it is, just trim it down after minusing your 2 inches for zip, like you are seeing now. I'm taking my 2 inches for my zip, and then I just cut out. And that's all for this tutorial. If you like this video, kindly comment on the comment section and like this video as well if you enjoyed it, and if you want to see more videos, and click on the notification bell for you to see more videos on the post. Thank you and God bless you. I love you so much. This is Classical Talk, and I remain Mamus, your tutor.